Nia Washington transferred to Riverside High halfway into the year, one of the only black faces in a sea of privilege with students when she dared to attend prom with quiet Jamal Thompson, the school's other black student Tyler Mitchell, and his crew saw the perfect opportunity to remind these outsiders of their place. They humiliated Nia, and when that wasn't enough, they targeted Jamal, thinking they were untouchable, but the bullies didn't know that Nia had beam training since she was 12, or that beneath her quiet exterior lay the disciplined fury of someone who'd never back down from a fight. The bullies would soon discover that some people don't just get mad, they get even before a go. Any further comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Nia Washington had thrown her last punch at Rodriguez's boxing gym in Detroit 3 days ago, her gloves connecting with a heavy bag in a rhythm that had become as natural as breathing. 12 years old when she first walked into that gym, 17 now as she walked through the pristine hallways of Riverside High, she carried that same steady confidence in her stride. The suburban school felt like stepping into a magazine spread, polished marble floor, trophy cases gleaming under fluorescent lights, and students who looked like they'd stepped out of a catalog. Everything was so clean, so perfect, so different from the Detroit public school she'd left behind. When her mom got the job transfer, the school year was already more than half over. As she had taught transfer in the middle of the year, Nia checked her phone for her locker combination, hyper-aware of being thinly black-faced in a sea of white students. The stares followed her like spotlights, conversations dropping toe whispers as she passed. The shouting started before she'd even found her locker. "Come on, Thompson, fight back!" Someone yelled from around the corner. Nia quickened her pace and turned to see a crowd of students forming a circle near the lockers, their phones already out recording whatever was happening in the center. Through the gaps between bodies, she caught sight of a lanky black boy with glasses pressed against the lockers by 3 white boys. Her heart jumped. Another black student. She wasn't alone here after all, but seeing him like this, cornered and outnumbered, made her stomach turn. Maybe if you spent less time with your nose in books and more time picking cotton, you'd know your place better. One of the attackers sneered, a stocky redhead with dead eyes. The crowd laughed, and some pulled out their phones to record. "Please, just leave me alone," the boy said quietly, his voice shaking. "What's that boy?" Speak up, a tall blonde in a Letterman jacket grabbed the kid's shirt. "We can't understand you when you mumble." Books scattered across the floor as they shoved him harder. Pages tore under expensive sneakers, and Nia saw the title of one, Advanced Calculus. This kid was smart, probably smarter than all of them combined, and they were treating him like garbage. "Hey," she pushed through the circle of students, phones swiveling toward her like weapons. "Back off him." The 3 boys turned, and their face lit up with cruel delight. "Oh, look at this," the blonde one said, straightening. "2 for 1 special today. I'm Tyler Mitchell, and you just made my day so much better." The redhead clapped his hands together. Christmas came early. Boy's fresh meat looked Jamal. The 3rd boy, shorter but built like a wrestler, said with fake sweetness, "They sent you a girlfriend, how romantic." "Shut up, Brad," Tyler said, never taking his eyes off Nia. "This requires finesse." Nia stepped between them and Jamal, her hands clenched at her sides. "I said, back off." "Or what?" Tyler circled around her slowly like a predator. "You going to file a complaint? This is Riverside High, sweetheart. We don't take complaints from your kind." "My kind." Nia's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You know exactly what I mean." Tyler's mask slipped for just a moment, showing the ugly truth underneath. "You people always think you can just waltz in here and change things, but this is our school, our territory." The redhead, who someone in the crowd called Connor, nodded eagerly. "Been in orphanages for generations." The crowd pressed closer, sensing blood in the water. Nia felt their eyes on her, waiting to see if she'd break, if she'd run, if she'd give them the show they wanted. But she'd been training for this her whole life, even if she hadn't known it. "Your territory." Nia's stance shifted, weight balanced on the balls of her feet. "Funny. I thought this was a public school paid for by everyone's taxes." Brad stepped closer, his wrestler's build intimidating. "Pulik, doesn't mean it belongs to monkeys. The word hit the air like a sleigh peevin'. Some of the white students looked uncomfortable. Now but nobody moved to stop it. Nia felt the familiar calm. That came before a fight, the way her vision sharpened and her breathing steadied. She had felt it in the ring dozens of times, but never like this, never when it mattered this much. Say that again, she said quietly. Tyler held up his hand, suddenly switching tactics. Whoa, easy there, Brad here gets a little excited. Sometimes we were just welcoming you to Riverside, right guys? Connor and Brad looked confused by the sudden shift, but followed Tyler's lead, stepping back slightly, just a little harmless. Fun. Tyler continued, his voice now reasonable, almost apologetic. No harm done. Come on guys, let's give our new students some space. As they walked away, Tyler looked back over his shoulder. See you around. Jamal, both of you, this is going to be a very interesting year. The crowd dispersed, and suddenly Nia and Jamal were alone in the hallway, surrounded by scattered books and torn pages. You okay? Nia asked, kneeling to help gather his things. Another black student? Jamal said, his voice filled with wonder and relief. I can't believe it. I thought I was going to graduate as the only one. Well, you're not alone anymore. The next morning, Nia found Jamal at his locker before first period, carefully organizing his books like they were precious artifacts. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his movements were more cautious than yesterday. Rough night, she asked, leaning against the locker next to his. Couldn't sleep. Keep thinking about what? Tyler said. Jamal glanced around nervously. About this being an interesting year. Didn't let him get in your head. That's what bullies do. They make you scared of shadows. Easy for you to say. You haven't been dealing with this for 3 years. Jamal's voice cracked slightly. Every day I wake up wondering what they'll do next. Put gum in my hair, trip me in the cafeteria, lock me in the supply closet. Yesterday was actually mild compared to some days. Nia felt anger building in her chest, and nobody stops them. The teacher sacked like they don't see it. Principal Harris says boys will be boys. My parents think I should just focus on my grades and ignore everything else. Jamal slammed his locker shut. Sometimes I wonder if it would be easier if I just transferred and you belong here as much as anyone else before. Jamal cold respond. Connor appeared beside them, his red hair catching the fluorescent light. Well, look who's becoming best friends already. Tyler and Brad flanked him on either side, forming a wall that blocked the hallway traffic. Other students moved around them without making eye contact, practiced in the art of pretending not to notice. How was your first night in paradise, Nia? Tyler's voice dripped with false concern. Hope you found suitable accommodations. I know housing can be challenging for people like you, people like me. Transfers, Tyler said smoothly. New students, it's always hard to adjust to a higher caliber of education. Brad laughed. Yeah, I bet Detroit public schools didn't prepare you for our academic standards. I'm doing just fine, thanks. Nia's hands clenched at her sides. Of course you are. I'm sure you'll fit right in. Connor's smile was razor sharp. Maybe you can tutor Jamal here in street smarts. Teach him how to be more authentic. What's that supposed to mean? Jamal's voice was barely above a whisper. Come on, Jamal, you're so buttoned up, so proper. Maybe hanging out with Nia will help you embrace your heritage. Learn some urban culture. Tyler held up his phone, its camera pointed at them. Speaking of culture, I should document this historic moment, the formation of Riverside High's. First, he paused dramatically. Study group, put that away. Nia said, it's a public space. I can record whatever I want. Tyler's finger hovered over the record button. Say something for posterity. Jamal, maybe rap for us. I don't rap, Jamal said quietly. Sure you do, it's in your DNA, right? Come in. Bust some rhymes about being smart and stuff. Brad started beatboxing badly, drawing more attention from passing students. Yo, check it, stop. Jamal said, his face burning with humiliation. What's wrong? I thought you'd appreciate us taking an interest in your culture. Connor said. Nia stepped forward, her boxing training making her movements fluid and confident. His culture is being valedictorian while you idiots are repeating junior year. Tyler's smile faltered for just a moment. Careful, Nia, or new here. You don't understand the social dynamics. Yet I understand them perfectly. 3 losers picking on someone smarter than all of them combined, because it makes them feel important. The hallway had grown quieter. Students slowing down to watch the confrontation. Tyler noticed the audience and his smile returned wider than before. You know what, you're absolutely right. Jamal is incredibly smart, isn't that right, buddy? Tyler clapped Jamal on the shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. Top of the class, headed to Harvard, probably a real credit to his people. The phrase hung in the air like poison. Several white students nodded approvingly, as if Tyler had said something reasonable instead of racist. A shining example. Connor added, "Onuf the good ones." Nia saw red. Her fist was halfway to Connor's face before Jamal grabbed her arm. "Don't," he whispered urgently, "they're recording thee. Want you to hit them." Tyler laughed delightedly. "Look at that restraint, guys. Jamal's already teaching her self-control." The warning bell rang and students began moving toward their classrooms. Tyler pocketed his phone and straightened his Letterman jacket. "Whistled, get to class. Wouldn't want to be late on our second day, would we?" Nia hewed away backwards, still smiling. "See you around, study partners." As the hallway emptied, Nia and Jamal stood in the aftermath, both breathing hard. "That was smart," Nia said, finally stopping me from hitting him. "I've learned their tricks. They say horrible things, then act like victims when you react." Jamal's hands were shaking as he gathered his books. "They film everything, edit it to make us look like the aggressors. How do you stand it?" "I tell myself it's temporary, another year, and I'm gone. Full scholarship somewhere far away from." Haramel's voice was hollow. "But now they have you too. Target too." "I'm sorry, don't apologize. I chose to step in." Why? Nia thought about the question as they walked toward their first class. "Because in Detroit we look out for each other. Becca's you're smart and kind, and you don't deserve this because nobody should have to face this alone." For the first time since she'd met him, Jamal smiled. "It was small and fragile, but real." "Thanks," he said. "I forgot what it felt like to have some me own on my side." As they entered their classroom, Nia caught sight of Tyler, Connor, and Brad whispering in the back row, their eyes tracking her and Jamal's every movement. They were planning something. She could see it in their expressions, but for the first time in 3 years, Jamal wasn't facing them alone. By late March, Nia and Jamal had fallen into a rhythm that felt like survival and friendship rolled into one. They met at his locker every morning, ate lunch together in the library where Tyler's crew couldn't corner them as easily, and walked to the parking lot together after school. 3 weeks of partnership had shown them both what it meant to have backup. "They superglued my locker shut this morning," Jamal said, prying at the metal door with a credit card. "Third time this month. Did you report it?" "Toho, principal." Harris. Jamal's laugh was bitter. "You told me last week that maybe I should consider being more approachable if I want to fit in better." Nia watched him struggle with the lock, anger building in her chest. "Your parents know about any of this, some of it. They're enough turn the other cheek types. Trust me, my mom's been documenting everything, taking photos of the locker, keeping the notes. She wants to file a complaint with the school board, but my dad thinks we should wait until we have more evidence. Build an airtight case." Jamal finally got his locker open, revealing another crude drawing taped inside. "Sometimes I think they forget. I have to live through this every day." While they're building their case, they walked toward first period, passing the bulletin board that had exploded with prom announcements, overnight glittery posters. "Promise tonight under the stars," inflowing script with photos of last year's prom court, all white, face beaming from behind tiaras and sashes. 6 weeks away, Nia observed, reading feed dates. "You thinking about going?" Jamal asked, though his tone suggested he thought the idea was ridiculous. "Actually, yeah, I am." Jamal stopped walking seriously. "Why not? We pay the same student fees as everyone else. We have just as much right to be there." "Nia, you've been here 3 weeks. You don't understand what prom is like for people like us. Last year, the only black girl went got accidentally splashed with punch by Tyler's girlfriend, spent the whole night with a stained dress so we don't go alone." Nia turned to face him fully. "We go together, watch each other's backs. You want to go to prom with me?" Amel's voice cracked slightly. "Not like a real date, just as friends who refused to let these idiots run us out of our own school." Before Jamal could respond, Tyler appeared around the corner with Connor and Brad flanking him like bodyguards. "Well, Well, what are we discussing so intensely this morning? Tyler's voice carried that familiar false friendliness that made Nia's skin crawl. Nothing that concerns you. She replied, oh, but everything concerns me. I'm student body president after all, got to keep my finger on the pulse of student life. Tyler's eyes flicked between them. You two looked pretty deep in conversation, playing something special. Connor stepped closer, invading their personal space. Maybe they're talking about spring formal. Wouldn't that be cute? Spring formals for underassmen. Brad said with Asneer. They're probably planning something more urban, actually. Nia said, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. We were talking about prom. Tyler's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. Prom, how wonderful, a real Cinderella story. Assuming they can afford it, Connor added. Tickets are $200 per couple plus tux rental dress dinner. Oh, I'm sure they'll figure it out, Tyler said smoothly, very resourceful. These two, maybe they can carpool with the cleaning staff. Jamal's hands clenched into fists. My prints make more money than yours ever will. Of course they do, Tyler said in a tone you'd use with a small child. Your daddy's a doctor, right? Very impressive. I'm sure he worked twice as hard as everyone else to get where he is. The comment hit its mark. Jamal's face flushed with anger and humiliation. Leave him alone. Nia stepped between them. Me, being supportive. I think it's great that Jamal's family has achieved so much despite the obvious challenges. Tyler's smile was poisonous. And I think it's wonderful that you two want to attend prom. Very brave. What's that supposito mean? Nia asked. Nothing at all, just that prom can be overwhelming for some people. Lot of tradition, lot of expectations. Wouldn't want anyone to feel out of place. Brad laughed. Yeah, the country club scene might be a little different from what you're used to. We'll manage, Jamal said quietly, but his voice shook with suppressed rage. I'm sure you will. You're both very adaptable. Tyler checked his phone. Well, we should get to class. Wouldn't want to be late on such a beautiful morning. As they walked away, Connor called back. Can't wait to see your prom photos. Very historic moment for Riverside High. The hallway felt too small, too bright, too full of staring faces. Nia could see other students watching them, some with curiosity, others with the same cruel amusement as Tyler. Screw now, do you see why? I don't want to go, Jamal asked quietly. Now I see why we have to go. Nia's voice was still. They want us to be scared, to hide, to prove their point about us not belonging, so we show up. We look amazing, we dance in law and have the time of our lives, and when they try to humiliate us, then we handle it together. Prom night arrived with all the fanfare. Riverside High called muster. The hotel ballroom glittered with fairy lights and silver decorations, transforming the space into something that actually lived up to the night under the stars theme. Nia had chosen a deep purple dress that made her feel like royalty, while Jamal looked sharp in his rented tuxedo, his usual nervous energy replaced by quiet confidence. You clean up nice, Thompson, Nia said as they posed for photos near the entrance. U2 Washington. Ready to show them what we're made of. They walked into the ballroom together, heads high, ignoring the whispers and stares that followed them like a wake. Several couples moved aside as they passed, creating an invisible bubble around them that spoke louder than any words. For the first hour, things went better than expected. They danced to the slower songs, laughed at the terrible DJ's attempts at humor, and even managed to enjoy the overpriced dinner. Tyler's crew kept their distance, content to watch from across the room with expressions that promised trouble. Later, the trouble started when Nia was standing alone by the refreshment table waiting for Jamal to return from the bathroom. Tyler wrapped beside her like a shadow, his cologne overpowering. In the warm air, having a good time, princess. His voice was silk over steel. It's been fine, thanks. Nia didn't look at him, focusing instead on ladling punch into 2 cups. You look beautiful tonight. That dress really brings out your exotic features. Nia's hand tightened on the ladle. Excuse me, I'm complimenting you. You should say thank you. Tyler stepped closer, invading her personal space. You know, if you ever get tired of charity cases like Jamal, I could show you what a real man looks like. Get away. From me, come on, don't be like that, I'm being nice here. His hand moved toward her waist. Just one dance, show everyone how progressive I said no. Nia stepped back, but Tyler followed, playing hard to get I like fate very authentic. His fingers brushed her arm. Bet you're a wild cat when you get going, don't touch me. Nia's voice carried across the nearby tables, drawing stares. That's when Jamal appeared, his face flushed with anger. She said, "Don't touch her." Tyler's expression shifted to mock surprise. Easy there, hero, just having a friendly conversation with your date. Friendly? Jamal stepped between them. Looked more like harassment to me. Harassment? Tyler laughed, and Connor and Brad materialized beside him like they'd been waiting for this moment. I was being a gentleman, maybe. You don't recognize good manners where you come from. Maybe you don't recognize the word know where you come from. Jamal shot back, his voice stronger than Nia had ever heard. If the confrontation was drawing attention now, students stopped dancing to watch their phones, appearing like vultures sensing blood. Careful, Thompson, Connor said with a grin. You're getting awfully brave for someone who usually runs away. Yeah, Brad added, cracking his knuckles. Maybe that punch is spiked. Tyler held up his hands in a gesture off-piece, his voice loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. Hey, no need for threats, guys. Jamal's just looking out for his girl. I respect that. The reasonless in his tone made Nia's skin crawl. He was performing now, playing Thurl of the misunderstood good guy. We don't want any trouble, Nia said firmly. Just leave us alone, of course. No trouble at all. Tyler's smile was razor sharp. Yautwo have a wonderful rest of your evening. As they walked away, Nia heard Connor mutter something about uppity, and all three boys laughed. The crowd dispersed, disappointed that the drama had ended so quickly. You okay? Jamal asked, his hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. I'm fine. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. Nobody gets to touch you like that for 20 minutes. They managed to enjoy themselves again, dancing and laughing like normal teenagers at prom, but Nia should have known Tyler wouldn't let it go that easily. I need to use the bathroom, she said during a particularly loud song. You okay here for a minute? I'll be right here when you get back. The bathroom was a refuge of sorts. Quieter, cooler, with harsh fluorescent lighting that made everyone's makeup look garish. Nia took her time, needing a moment to decompress from the tension. Meanwhile, Jamal stood by their table, checking his phone and watching the other couples dance. Hadn't seen Tyler, Connor, and Brad approaching until it was too late. Well, Tyler said, his earlier friendly mask completely gone. Look who thinks he's a knight in shining armor. I didn't want any trouble, Jamal said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had held earlier. Too bad. Trouble found. Yokoner grabbed Jamal's arm. Roughly time for a little chat outside. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. Brad moved to his other side. Unless you want to make a scene in front of all these nice people. They started moving him toward a side corridor away from the main crowd and the chaperones. Jamal looked around desperately for help, but everyone was either dancing or deliberately looking away. Where are we going? He asked, panic creeping into his voice. Just somewhere quiet where we can have a proper conversation, Tyler said smoothly. They pushed him through a service door into a narrow hallway used by hotel staff. The music became muffled, and the sudden dimness made Jamal blink. Oh, no, we can talk properly, Tyler said, loosening his tie. About what? Jamal backed against the wall. About respect, about boundaries, about the fact that y'all think you can embarrass me in front of the whole school. Connor stepped closer. Nobody makes Tyler look bad. Nobody. You made me look like a racist in front of everyone, Tyler continued, like I was some kind of predator bothering your precious girlfriend. You were bothering her. I was being friendly and you turned it into something ugly. Tyler's voice was ice cold. Now time you learned some consequences. The first punch came from Connor catching Jamal in the ribs and doubling him over. Brad followed with a hit to his shoulder, sending him stumbling against wall. Nothing personal, Thompson, Tyler said, watching with detached interest. Just business. Jamal tried to fight back, throwing a wild punch that grazed Connor's jaw, but 3 against 1 was hopeless, especially when he'd never been in a real fight in his life. Had enough yet? Tyler asked as Jamal slumped against the wall, his tuxedo torn and dirty, blood trickling from his nose. Please, Jamal gasped, just stop when you learn your place. Brad kicked him in the ribs. When you understand that heroes get hurt, they left him there, straightening their clothes and returning to the ballroom. Like nothing had happened by the time the hotel staff found Jamal and Alerteth's chaperones. Tyler and his friends were back on the dance floor, their alibis solid, when Nia finally found him in the hotel's first aid room. Her heart shattered. Jamal sat on a plastic chair holding an ice pack to his face while Mrs. Patterson filled out an incident report. What happened? Nia demanded. Murthamson says he fell down some stairs. Mrs. Patterson said, without looking up. He had a little too much excitement for one evening. That's not what happened, Jamal said quietly. Do you have proof of anything else? Mrs. Patterson's tone was dismissive. Any witnesses? Jamal looked at Nia, and she saw the defeat in his eyes. They both knew the truth, but truth didn't matter here. Power mattered, money mattered, the right last name mattered. No, he whispered, no witnesses. As they left the hotel that night, Nia felt something harden inside her chest. The system had failed them completely. Monday morning came like a slap in the face. Nia found Jamal at his locker, a purple bruise blooming around his left eye despite the key concealer he'd tried to use. Students walked past them with knowing smirks, and she heard whispered fragments of conversation. Heard Thompson got wasted at prom. Finally got what was coming to him. Should have minded his own business. How are you holding up? Nia asked, keeping her voice low. I've been better. Jamal's smile was weak. My parents want to press charges. Apparently, I can't identify my attackers in a dark hallway because it was Tyler, Connor, and Brad. Try proving that they were all on the dance floor when hotel security found me. Dozens of witnesses saw them there. Nia's hands clenched into fists. This is ridiculous. We both know what happened. Knowing and proving are different things. Jamal closed his locker carefully. My mom's calling Principal Harris this morning for all the good it'll do. An hour later they sat in Principal Harris's office, watching him shuffle through papers with the enthusiasm of someone handling garbage. Jamal's mother, Dr. Patricia Thompson, sat ramrod straight in her chair, her lawyer's training evident in every precise word. Mr. Harris, my son was assaulted at a school-sponsored event. What are you going to do about it? Dr. Thompson, I understand your concern, but according to the incident report, Jamal fell down some stairs. These things happen when young people get overexcited. Thompson's voice could have cut glass. He was beaten up. Look at his face. I see some bruising that's consistent with the fall. Hotel security reviewed the footage and found no evidence of an assault. Nia leaned forward. What about the hallway where it happened? Did they check those cameras? Principal Harris barely glanced at her. That particular corridor doesn't have security coverage. Unfortunate, but not uncommon in older buildings. How convenient. Dr. Thompson said icily, and I suppose Tyler Mitchell's whereabouts are well documented. Tyler was photographed on the dance floor throughout the evening. Multiple witnesses confirm his presence. Same with his friends. Harris folded his hands. Dr. Thompson, I know you're upset, but we can't punish students based on speculation. This is speculation. This is a pattern of harassment that your staff has ignored for 3 years now. That's simply not true. Take all reports of bullying seriously. Really, then, why is my son's locker vandalized weekly? Why do teachers ignore racist comments in their classrooms? Why does nothing ever happen to the students responsible? Harris's expression hardened. Perhaps if Jamal were more approachable, he'd have fewer social difficulties. Students bring these problems on themselves. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Thompson stood slowly, her composure frightening in its control. What did you just say? I simply meant that integration works best when everyone makes an effort to fit in integration. Mr. Thompson's voice was deadly quiet. This is 2025, Mr. Harris. Not 1955, of course. Poor choice of words, I just think. You think my son deserves to be beaten because he doesn't know his place? Gathered her purse. I'll be speaking to the school board about this conversation, Dr. Thompson. There's no need for threats. That wasn't a threat, that was a promise. Later that afternoon, Nia found herself at Iron Will Boxing Gym, a small place she discovered a few miles from school. The owner, Coach Martinez, was a former heavyweight who'd taken one look at her form and agreed to let her train there. After the move from Detroit, she was hitting the heavy bag with more fury than technique when Martinez stepped in. "Easy, kid, that bag didn't do anything to you." "Sorry." Coach Nia pulled off her gloves, breathing hard. "Just had a bad day, want to talk about it." She told him everything, the harassment, the incident, Principal Harris's disgusting response. Martinez listened without interruption, his scarred face growing darker with each detail. "These punks think they can get away with anything," he said. "Finally, what's your boy going to do, Jamal?" "Nothing," he says. "Fighting back just makes it worse. Sometimes worse is better than nothing. You understand?" Nia met his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe your friend needs to learn how to protect himself, and maybe you need to teach him. You want me to train Jamal? You want you to give him options right now. All he can do is take it. But if he knew how to fight back." Martinez shrugged. "Bullies respect strength and nothing else. If school would expel us if we fought back, only if they catch you and only if they care enough to do something about it." Martinez's smile was grim. "Sounds like they don't care much about anything except protecting their golden boys." That evening, Nia called Jamal with a proposition that would change everything. "Boxing lessons." Jamal's voice was skeptical. "Nia, I can barely do a push-up. Martinez says he can work with any owner. You don't have to become Muhammad Ali overnight. Just learn enough to defend yourself. And when Tyler and his friend jump me again, 3 against 1 boxing skills won't matter. Then we make sure it's not 3 against 1. "What do you mean?" Nia took a deep breath. "I mean, West stop playing by their rules. They want to terrorize us. Fine, let's see how they like being scared for once you're talking about revenge. I'm talking about justice. The school won't protect us. The adults don't care, so we protect ourselves." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Jamal spoke again, his voice was different, harder, more resolved. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow after school. Iron Will Boxing Gym." "And Jamal, yeah, bring comfortable clothes. We've got work to do." As Nia hung up the phone, she felt something shift inside of her chest. They'd tried playing by the rules, tried being the perfect victim who deserved help, but perfect victims just got hurt over and over again. Tomato stopped being victims. 3 weeks into training, Jamal's transformation was subtle but undeniable. His shoulders had broadened slightly, his posture was straighter, and the constant nervous energy that used to radiate from him had been replaced by something steadier, more focused. "Keep your guard up," Nia called as he worked the heavy bag at Iron Will Gym. "Tyler's not going to politely wait for you to get ready." Jamal threw a combination jab cross hook that would have been unthinkable a month ago. His form wasn't perfect, but it was solid. "Determined, better." Coach Martinez nodded approvingly. "You're starting to move like a fighter instead of a victim." "I don't feel like a fighter yet," Jamal panted, pulling off his gloves. "Fighting's not about feeling, kid. It's about doing what needs to be done when the moment comes." While Jamal caught his breath, Nia reviewed the evidence they'd been collecting. Her phone contained a dozen videos of Tyler's crew harassing other students, audio recordings of racist comments in hallways, and photos of vandalized lockers. The pattern was clear, methodical, and damning. "Look at this," she said, showing Jamal a video from that morning. Tyler and Connor cornering Marcus Williams by the gym. Same playbook every time on screen. The 2 seniors had the sophomore pressed against the wall while other students walked past, deliberately ignoring what was happening. "Maybe you should stick to sports you're actually good at." Tyler's voice came through clearly, like running away. "We'll need to show this to someone," Jamal said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Hope Principal Harris, he already made it clear he doesn't care." Nia scrawled through more footage. "The teachers pretend they don't see it. The school board won't meet with parents. We're documenting everything, but nobody in power wants to look." Martinez watched them from across the gym, his expression thoughtful. "You know what your problem is here. Are still thinking like victims, still waiting for someone else to save you. We're gathering evidence." Nia protested. "Evidence for what? A trial that's never going to happen, a system that's already shown you it don't care." Martinez shook his head. Sometimes justice has to be taken, not given. Meanwhile, in the Riverside High Park parking lot, Tyler leaned against his BMW, scrolling through social media with Connor and Brad flanking him like bodyguards. "Check this out," Connor said, showing Tyler his phone. Someone posted a video of Thompson and Washington walking to the parking lot together. "Look at the comments." Tyler read them with growing amusement. "Power couple Black Panthers, watch out Tyler." The last one made him laugh out loud. "People are starting to notice them," Brad observed, "like they think they're some kind of heroes or something." Heroes? Tyler's voice dripped with disdain. "Thompson's still the same pathetic nerd he's always been, and Washington's just angry because she doesn't understand how things work here." Speaking of which, Connor pointed across the parking lot. "Isn't that interesting?" Tyler followed his gaze to see Nia and Jamal getting into Nia's car, both carrying gym bags. They looked different, more confident, less scared. "Where do you think they were going?" Brad asked. "Probably some community center, learning African dance or something." Tyler's joke fell flat even to him. There was something a booth way they carried themselves now that bothered him. "Doesn't matter, let them play pretend warrior. Reality has a way of reasserting itself." But as he watched them drive away, Tyler felt the first stirring of something he hadn't experienced in years. Doubt. Back at Ironwell Gym, Neo was showing Jamal how to use his phone to record without buying Gobius. "The key is to look natural, pretend you're texting or checking social media." She demonstrated, holding her phone casually while the camera captured everything. "They're so used to being untouchable, they don't even try to hide anymore." "What's the endgame here?" Jamal asked. "We can't post this stuff online without getting expelled. Maybe expulsion is worth it if we expose what this school really is. Easy for you to say. You've been here 2 months. I've got years of perfect grades writing on staying clean." Nia studied his face, seeing the conflict there. "You're scared, terrified," Jamal admitted. "But I'm more tired than scared. Tired of being afraid, tired of hiding, tired of pretending this is normal. Then we do something about it." "Like what before?" Nia could answer. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was short and chilling. "We know where you train." She showed it to Jamal, whose face went pale. "How did they get your number?" "Doesn't matter." Nia's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking slightly. "What matters is they're watching us now." Martinez appeared beside them, having noticed their expressions. "Problem?" Nia showed him text. His face darkened. "Punks trying to intimidate you outside school now." He thought for a moment. "Maybe it's time to accelerate your training schedule." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe waiting for them to make the next move isn't the smart play. Maybe it's time to take control of when and where this ends." Jamal looked between them, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You're talking about fighting them. I'm talking about finishing what they started," Martinez said, "on your terms, not theirs." As they left the gym that evening, Nia felt the weight of the decision ahead of them. They could keep documenting, keep hoping Simeon in authority would care, keep being victims, or they could choose a different path entirely. The text on her phone felt like a line being drawn in sand. Tyler and his crew had just made their biggest mistake. They'd let her know they were scared enough to escalate, and scared bullies, Nia had learned, were dangerous bullies, but they were also desperate ones. The plan was simple in theory, devastating in practice. Nia and Jamal would create situations where Tyler's crew would show their true colors on camera, building an undeniable case of harassment that even Principal Harris couldn't ignore. "You sure about this?" Jamal asked, adjusting the small camera hidden in his backpack. The device borrowed from his dad's medical practice was nearly invisible but captured everything in high definition. "We need proof," Nia said, checking her own recording setup on her phone. "Real evidence that can't be dismissed or explained away." They'd spent the morning planning their approach. Jamal would position himself near Tyler's locker, appearing vulnerable, and Nia would stay close enough to intervene if things went too far, but far enough away to maintain the illusion that Jamal was isolated. "Remember, just act normal," Nia coached. "Let them do what they always do. We're just finally going to have it on record." The first opportunity came during lunch. Jamal walked past Tyler's table in the cafeteria, making eye contact. Just long enough to be noticed. The response was immediate. "Well, look who's feeling brave today," Tyler called out loud enough for Nerby. Tables to hear, "How's that black eye healing up, Thompson?" Jamal stopped at his body language, carefully crafted to appear nervous but not retreating. "It's fine. I bet it is heard you've been working out lately. That true, maybe, Connor?" And Brad flanked Tyler as he stood up, creating the familiar triangle formation they used to intimidate other students, began pulling out phones. Sensing drama, maybe Tyler laughed. "Cumby and Jamal, we're all friends here. Tell us about this new fitness routine." "There's nothing to tell. Sure there is. Word is you and your girlfriend have been spending a lot of time at some gym. Very inspiring, very urban." The racial undertone was subtle but unmistakable. Several white students nodded approvingly while others looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. "We're just working out," Jamal said, his voice steadier than Nia had expected. "Of course you're got to stay in fighting shape, right?" Tyler stepped closer. "Never know when you might need to protect yourself." The threat was implicit, but clear. Jamal's camera was capturing every word, every expression, every witness who watched silently. "I don't want any trouble," Jamal said. "Nobody wants trouble, but sometimes trouble finds you anyway." Tyler's smile was cold, "especially when you forget your place." That's when Brad noticed something that made his blood run cold. "Tyler," he whispered urgently, "check out his backpack." Tyler's eyes narrowed as he spotted the tiny lens barely visible through the fabric. His expression shifted from casual cruelty to genuine rage. "You little snake," he hissed. "You're recording this." The cafeteria went dead silent. Even students at distant tables stopped eating to watch. "I don't know what you're talking about," Jamal said, but his voice betrayed him. "Don't lie to meddler." Grabbed Jamal's backpack, yanking it open to reveal the hidden camera. "You've been setting us up." The realization hit the room like a bomb. Students began murmuring, some approving of Jamal's tactics, others viewing it as a betrayal of unwritten social codes. "How long?" Connor demanded. "How long have you been spying on us?" "We weren't spying," Jamal said, his voice growing stronger. "We were documenting harassment." And Tyler's laugh was harsh. "We were just talking to you. You were threatening me again." "I was being friendly and you turned it into some kind of setup." Tyler's face was flushed with genuine anger. "Now you made us look like criminals." "You are criminals," Nia said, appearing beside Jamal. Her phone was also out, recording openly. "Now get that thing away from me." Brad snarled, reaching for her phone. "Don't touch me," Nia warned, but Brad was beyond listening. He lunged for her phone, and that's when everything went sideways. Nia's boxing training kicked in. Automatically, she sidestepped his grab and her fist connected with his solar plexus, dropping him to his knees. The cafeteria erupted. Students jumped on tables for better views. Phones appeared everywhere and chaos spread like wildfire. "You want to fight?" Tyler screamed, his composure completely shattered. "Fine, let's fight." He swung at Jamal, who managed to duck thanks to weeks of training. Connor joined the fray, and suddenly it was a full brawl in front of 200 witnesses. Teachers rushed in shouting orders that no one heard over the noise. Within minutes, security had separated the combatants, but the damage was done. "My office, all of you." Principal Harris bellowed now as they were marched out of the cafeteria. Nia caught glimpses of student phones capturing everything. The video would be in line within minutes, spreading across social media like wildfire, but she also saw something else in Tyler's eyes that chilled her. Cold, calculating fury. This wasn't over. If anything, it had just begun. "You think you're so smart," Tyler whispered as they walked down the hallway. "You have no idea what you just started." Nia met his gaze steadily. "Neither do you." The truth was none of them understood what forces they'd just unleashed. The careful balance of power at Riverside High had been shattered, and what would emerge from the chaos was anyone's guess, but there was no going back now. The suspension lasted 3 days for everyone involved, but the real punishment was just beginning. Nia sat in her family's living room watching the cafeteria fight video rack up thousands of views on social media. The comment section was a battlefield of its own. "Black girl thinks she's tough about time. Simeon Stood up to Tyler Mitchell. Typical ghetto behavior. Those bullies got what they deserved. Her mother, Angela. Washington paced behind the couch with controlled fury of someone who'd spent years fighting similar battles. I'm proud of you for defending yourself, she said finally. But recording them like that was dangerous, baby. You backed them into a corner. They backed themselves into a corner by being racist bullies. That's not how they see it, and that's not how their parents will see it either. Nia's phone buzzed with a text from Jamal. My parents are livid, not at me, at the school. Dad's calling a lawyer. Before she could respond, another message appeared from an unknown number. You made a big mistake. This isn't over. Her blood ran cold, she showed. The text to her mother, who immediately called the police, but when the officer arrived 2 hours later, his response was predictably dismissive. Could be from anyone, probably just some kid blowing off steam. Nothing we can really do unless there's a specific threat. What do you call this an over? Angela demanded. I call it teenagers being dramatic. Look, your daughter started a fight at school. Maybe lay low for a while instead of looking for more trouble. Meanwhile, across town, Tyler sat in his family's pristine living room facing the wrath of his father, District Attorney Michael Mitchell. The Sully man's political ambitions had just taken a serious hit thanks to his son's viral humiliation. Do you have any idea what you've done? His father raged. I'm running for state attorney general, and my son is all over the internet looking like a common thug. Dad, they set us up. They were recording us illegally. I don't care if they had a full film crew. You never ever give them ammunition to use against you. Michael's face was red with fury. The black community is already calling for my head, saying I raised a racist son. The NMF ACP is threatening protests. I'm not racist. Tell that to the 10 million people who watched you threaten that boy on camera. Tyler's mother, Patricia, sat silently in her designer chair, her political consultant instincts calculating damage control. We need target ahead of this story, she said. Finally show Tyler doing community service, may volunteer work with underprivileged youth. I'm not doing charity work with those people, Tyler snapped his father. Shan connected with his cheek in a sharp slap. You'll do exactly what we tell you to do, or you'll find yourself at military school faster than you can blink. The room fell silent. Tyler's cheek burned, but his eyes burned hotter with humiliation and rage. However, his father continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. That doesn't mean we let this slide. There are ways to handle problems like this. Quiet ways. Tyler met his father's eyes and saw something fatchelled him, not anger, but cold calculation. This was how the Mitchell family had maintained power for generations, not through open confrontation, but through systematic destruction of their enemies. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Let us handle it. Back at Riverside High, the aftermath of the cafeteria incident rippled through the student body like shockwaves. Nia turned to school to find herself transformed into something she'd never wanted to be. A symbol. Nia, a group of younger black students surrounded her at her locker. That was so cool how you dropped Brad. Can you teach us how to fight? I don't want to teach anyone to fight, she said, uncomfortable with the attention, but you showed them they can't just push us around anymore. One of the sophomores said you stood up for all of us. The weight of their expectations pressed down on her like a physical force. She just wanted to protect herself and Jamal, but somehow she'd become the face of resistance against the school's toxic culture. Jamal appeared beside her, looking equally overwhelmed. The guidance counselor wants to see us, he said quietly. Mrs. Patterson's office felt like a trap. The woman sat behind her desk with a false smile that didn't reach her eyes. I've been reviewing the incident, she began. Well, I understand you felt provoked. Your actions were completely inappropriate. They were harassing us, Nia said. According to who? The video shows Tyler having a normal conversation before you two escalated to violence. Normal. Jamal's voice cracked with disbelief. He threatened me. I see friendly banter that got out of hand when you decided to create drama. Mrs. Patterson's tone was dismissive. The recording device shows premeditation. You planned this confrontation. We planned to document harassment. You planned to embarrass fellow students and create a viral moment for social media fame. She leaned Forward, I'm recommending both of you for transfer to alternative education. Clearly, you're not a good fit for Riverside High's culture, the threshing in the air like poison. Alternative education meant giving up their academic futures, their college prospects, their dreams. You can't do that. Nia whispered, I can, and I will unless you agree to some conditions. What? Conditions? Public apology to Tyler and his friends. Admission that you staged the incident for attention and a promise to stop this crusade of yours. Nia felt the walls closing in. Every adult who was supposed to protect them had failed, and now they were being asked to humiliate themselves to save their futures. No, she said finally. Excuse me, I said no. We're not apologizing for defending ourselves. Mrs. Patterson's smile disappeared entirely. Then you'll face the consequences, both of you. As they left the office, Nia realized they'd crossed a point of no return. The system hadn't just failed them, it was actively working against them. War had been declared, and they were on their own. Tyler paced the empty parking lot behind the gymnasium like a caged animal, his expensive sneakers scuffing against the asphalt. Connor and Brad flanked him, both looking uncomfortable with the rage radiating from their leader. I can't take it anymore, Tyler snarled. Everyone's looking at me like I'm some kind of joke. Me, do you know what my family name means in this town, dude? Maybe we should just let it go, Connor said nervously. The whole thing's blown over. People are already talking about other stuff. Blown over? Tyler's voice cracked with fury. My father won't even look at me. My mother's been taking calls from reporters all week, and you want me to let it go? Brad shifted uncomfortably. Your dad said to lay low. Remember, let them handle it. My dad doesn't understand what it's like to walk through these halls, knowing everyone's seen you get punked by some ghetto transfer student. Tyler's fists clenched at his sides. I built my reputation over 4 years, and they destroyed it in 30 seconds. So what do you want to do? Connor asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. I want to remind them why they should have stayed in their place. I want them to understand that actions have consequences. Steele's eyes gleamed with malicious intent. And I want everyone to see it happen. Tyler, man, if we get caught, we won't get caught. There are no cameras back here. No witnesses, just us and them having a little conversation about respect. What Tyler didn't know was that his father had spent the past 3 days pulling strings behind the Senate district. Attorney Michael Mitchell had made strategic phone calls to the school board, applied pressure in back rooms, and leveraged political favors built up over decades of public service. It waste textbook damage control. Make the problem disappear through institutional power rather than messy public confrontations. The Mitchell family had been playing this game for generations, but Tyler and his privileged bubble of rage and humiliation had no idea. His father was already fixing everything through proper channels. There they are, Brad whispered, pointing across the lot. Nia and Jamal walked toward her car, their conversation focused on their plans to meet Coach Martinez. They looked relaxed, confident, everything Tyler used to be before they came along. Perfect. Tyler breathed nice and isolated. Tyler, seriously, maybe we should think about this. Connor tried one last time. What if they fight back? Tyler laughed bitter. Lithamson, please, and Washington's just one girl. What's she going to do against 3 of us? The 3 boys emerged from behind the maintenance shed, their movements coordinated like a pack of predators. Tyler felt the familiar rush-off power that came from having backup, from being the one with the advantage, owing somewhere special. He called out, his voice dripping with false friendliness. Nia and Jamal turned, and Tyler saw something in their expressions that he didn't recognize. Not fear, but something else, something that should have warned him to reconsider. We don't want any trouble, Jamal said. Booth's stance was different, somehow more balanced, more ready. Too late for that, Kenor snarled, feeding off Tyler's energy. You already caused us a not ruble. Tyler stepped forward, feeling the familiar thrill of intimidation. Do you have any idea what you've done to my family? My father's reputation is in jeopardy because of your little stunt. Good, Nia said flatly, her voice carrying no trace of the submission Tyler expected. Maybe he'll learn not to raise racist kids. The word hit Tyler like a physical blow. Racist? I'm not racist. I just know my place in the world, and "Ick, no, yours the problem is you forgot yours," which is what exactly Nia stepped forward, her hands hanging loose at her sides in a deceptively casual stance beneath. U.S. Tyler said with all the venom he could muster, "Always has been, always will." Is that right?" Jamal's voice was steady, stronger than Tyler had ever heard it. "That's exactly right, and it's time." "You both remembered that lesson?" Tyler nodded to his friends, and they began to spread out, forming a triangle around Nia and Jamal. It was a formation they'd used countless times before. Surround the victim. Eliminate escape routes. Apply overwhelming pressure until resistance crumbled. Last chance to walk away. Nia said quietly. Tyler's laugh was harsh and bitter. "Walk away from you, toy? Don't think so." He raised his fist, the signal his crew had been waiting for. The fight was about to begin. The first punch came from Connor, aimed at Jamal's head with all the fury of 3 years of built-up dominance. But Jamal wasn't the Sama-terrified kid who used to cower in hallways. He ducked under the swing and drove his fist into Connor's ribs, the impact making a satisfying thud. Connor staggered back, eyes wide with shock. Before he could finish, Jamal followed up with a left hook that caught Connor in the jaw, snapping his head to the side. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as he stumbled against a car. Meanwhile, Tyler and Brad circled Nia like wolves, their confidence shaken but not broken by Jamal's unexpected competence. 2 against 1. Nia taunted, bouncing lightly on her feet. "Still not fair odds for us," Tyler snarled, lunging forward. Nia sidestepped his wild swing and countered with a sharp jab to his solar plexus that doubled him over, but Brad was already moving, catching her with a glancing blow to the shoulder that spun her around. "Got you now." Brad grinned, pressing his advantage. He threw a haymaker that would have ended the fight, but Nia rolled with the punch, absorbing most of the impact on her forearm. Her return uppercut caught Brad under the chin, lifting him off his feet for a moment before he crashed back down across the lot. Connor had recovered enough to charge at Jamal again, this time leading with his shoulder like a linebacker. The tackle drove Jamal back against the gymnasium wall, knocking the wind out of him. "Not so tough now, are you?" Connor gasped, blood still flowing from his split lip. He grabbed Jamal by the shirt and drove a knee toward his midsection, but Jamal twisted away at the last second. The knee hit brick instead of flesh, and Connor howled in pain. Jamal's elbow strike caught Connor in the temple, stunning him long enough for Jamal to break free, but effort left him exposed, and Connor's desperate backhand caught him across the cheek, sending his glasses flying. Nia called out, momentarily distracted. Tyler seized the opportunity, tackling her around the waist and driving her to the asphalt. They rolled across the ground, each fighting for position until Tyler ended up on top finally. Happened, raising his fist. "Time to put you in your place." But Nia's legs were free and her knees shot up between Tyler's legs with devastating accuracy. He rolled off her, clutching himself and making sounds that weren't quite human. Brad tried to capitalize on Nia's position on the ground, but she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing down beside her. They both scrambled to their feet, breathing hard, circling each other like prize fighters. "You're stronger than I expected," Brad admitted, wiping blood from his nose. "You're weaker." Nia rapidly then launched a combination that drove him backward. Her left hook connected with his ribs. Her right cross caught him in the jaw, and her follow-up left sent him stumbling into a parked car. But Brad wasn't finished. He grabbed a handful of gravel from the ground and flung it at her eyes. Nia threw up her hands to protect her face, and Brad's tackle drove her back against Tyler's BMW. The impact knocked the breath out of her, and Brad's fist caught her in the stomach, doubling her over. Meanwhile, Jamal and Connor were locked in a desperate grapple near the maintenance shed. Both boys were bloodied and exhausted, their technique deteriorating into raw desperation. Connor managed to get behind Jamal, wrapping his arm around his throat in a chokehold. "Give up," he gasped. "Just give up." But weeks of training had built more than just muscle. They'd built determination. Jamal drove his elbow back into Connor's ribs repeatedly until the grip loosened, then spun around and caught Connor with a right cross that dropped him to his knees. "I'm done giving up," Jamal said, standing over his defeated tormentor across the lot. Nia had recovered from Brad's dirty tactics and was systematically dismantling his offense. Every punch he threw, she either blocked or countered. Every attempt to grapple, she escaped. With fluid technique, Tyler, still recovering from her knee strike, watched in growing horror as his crew, his symbols of power and dominance, were being beaten by the two students she had spent months terrorizing. This is impossible. He was struggling to his feet. We're supposed to win. We always win. Not today, Nia said, advancing on him with controlled fury. That's when the voice cut through the parking lot like a whip crack. What the hell is going on? Hurry, very own froze coach. Martinez stood at the edge of the lot, his weathered face dark with anger. Behind him, attracted by the noise, were several other adults, including a security guard. Everybody step back now, Martinez commanded, pulling out his phone. I'm calling the police. As sirens wailed in the distance, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. The fight was over, but the real battle was just beginning. The police arrived with sirens blaring and lights flashing, transforming the quiet parking lot into a crime scene. Officer Rodriguez stepped out of the first patrol car, taking in the scene: 3 white boys bloodied and beaten, 2 black students standing defiantly despite their own injuries. Everybody stay where you are, he commanded, Hish, and resting on his weapon. Tyler struggled to his feet, his pristine appearance destroyed. Officer, thank God you were here. These 2 attacked us. We were just walking to our cars when they jumped us. That's not what happened, Nia said, firmly wiping blood from her split lip. Are you seriously going to believe them over us? Connor added, still clutching his ribs. Look at us. We're the victims here, officer. Rodriguez's expression remained neutral, but Nia could see the familiar pattern forming: 3 white boys from prominent families against 2 black students. She'd seen this script. Before actually, Coach Martinez stepped forward, holding up his phone. I've got the whole thing recorded. The parking lot fell silent except for the crackling of police radios. I was in my office upstairs when I heard shouting. Martinez continued, started recording when I saw them corner these 2 kids. Got everything from the threats to the first punch. Tyler's face went white. That is not possible. Modern phones have great zoom features, Martinez said with grim satisfaction. Want to see? He held up his phone, and even from a distance the audio was crystal clear. Tyler's voice saying, beneath us always has been, always will be, followed by Connor throwing the first punch. Officer Rodriguez examined the phone, his expression growing darker with each second of footage. Well, this changes things. You can't use that. Brad protested. He didn't have permission to record us. Actually, I can, Martinez said. Public space, no expectation of privacy. Basic law. Within minutes, backup units arrived, followed by paramedics and Detective Sarah Williams, a nonsense woman who'd been working hate crimes for 15 years. Let me get this straight, Detective Williams said after reviewing the footage. You 3 approached these 2 students, made racially charged statements, threatened them, and threw the first punches. We were just talking, Tyler insisted, his privileged confidence cracking. They escalated it. Son, I've got video evidence that says otherwise. Williams turned to Nia and Jamal. Yautwo need medical attention. We're fine, Nia said, though her knuckles were split and bleeding. You're not fine. You defended yourselves against 3 attackers. Williams's voice carried a note of respect. That takes courage. Tyler breathed nice and isolated. Tyler, seriously, maybe we should think about this. Connor tried one last time. What if they fight back? Tyler laughed bitter. Lithamson, please, and Washington's just one girl. What's she going to do against 3 of us? The 3 boys emerged from behind the maintenance shed, their movements coordinated like a pack of predators. Tyler felt the familiar rush-off power that came from having backup, from being the one with the advantage, owing somewhere special. He called out, his voice dripping with false friendliness. Nia and Jamal turned, and Tyler saw something in their expressions that he didn't recognize. Not fear, but something else, something that should have warned him to reconsider. We don't want any trouble, Jamal said. Booth's stance was different, somehow more balanced, more ready. Too late for that, Connor snarled, feeding off Tyler's energy. You already caused us inaudible Tyler stepped forward, feeling the familiar thrill of intimidation to have. Any idea what you've done to my family? My father's reputation is in jeopardy because of your little stunt. Good, Nia said flatly, her voice carrying no trace of the submission Tyler expected. Maybe he'll learn not to raise racist kids. The word hit Tyler like a physical blow. Racist? I'm not racist. I just know my place in the world, and ick know yours. The problem is you forgot yours, which is what exactly. Nia stepped forward, her hands hanging loose at her sides in a deceptively casual stance beneath. U.S. Tyler said with all the venom he could muster. Always has been, always will be. Is that right? Jamal's voice was steady, stronger than Tyler had ever heard it. That's exactly right, and it's time you both remembered that lesson. Tyler nodded to his friends, and they began to spread out, forming a triangle around Nia and Jamal. It was a formation they'd used countless times before. Surround the victim. Eliminate escape routes. Apply overwhelming pressure until resistance crumbled. Last chance to walk away, Nia said quietly. Tyler's laugh was harsh and bitter. Walk away from you, Toy? Don't think so. He raised his fist, the signal his crew had been waiting for. The fight was about to begin. The first punch came from Connor, aimed at Jamal's head with all the fury of 3 years of built-up dominance. But Jamal wasn't the semi-terrified kid who used to cower in hallways. He ducked under the swing and drove his fist into Connor's ribs, the impact making a satisfying thud. Connor staggered back, eyes wide with shock. Before he could finish, Jamal followed up with a left hook that caught Connor in the jaw, snapping his head to the side. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as he stumbled against a car. Meanwhile, Tyler and Brad circled Nia like wolves, their confidence shaken but not broken by Jamal's unexpected competence. 2 against 1. Nia taunted, bouncing lightly on her feet. Still not fair odds for us, Tyler snarled, lunging forward. Nia sidestepped his wild swing and countered with a sharp jab to his solar plexus that doubled him over, but Brad was already moving, catching her with a glancing blow to the shoulder that spun her around. Got you now. Brad grinned, pressing his advantage. He threw a haymaker that would have ended the fight, but Nia rolled with the punch, absorbing most of the impact on her forearm. Her return uppercut caught Brad under the chin, lifting him off his feet for a moment before he crashed back down across the lot. Connor had recovered enough to charge at Jamal again, this time leading with his shoulder like a linebacker. The tackle drove Jamal back against the gymnasium wall, knocking the wind out of him. Not so tough now, are you? Connor gasped, blood still flowing from his split lip. He grabbed Jamal by the shirt and drove a knee toward his midsection, but Jamal twisted away at the last second. The knee hit brick instead of flesh, and Connor howled in pain. Jamal's elbow strike caught Connor in the temple, stunning him long enough for Jamal to break free, but effort left him exposed, and Connor's desperate backhand caught him across the cheek, sending his glasses flying. Jamal, Nia called out, momentarily distracted. Tyler seized the opportunity, tackling her on the waist and driving her to the asphalt. They rolled across the ground, each fighting for position until Tyler ended up on top. Finally, Happented raising his fist. Time to put you in your place. But Nia's legs were free and her knees shot up between Tyler's legs. With devastating accuracy, he rolled off her, clutching himself and making sounds that weren't quite human. Brad tried to capitalize on Nia's position on the ground, but she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing down beside her. They both scrambled to their feet, breathing hard, circling each other like prize fighters. You're stronger than I expected, Brad admitted, wiping blood from his nose. You're weaker. Nia Ripley then launched a combination that drove him backward. Her left hook connected with his ribs. Her right cross caught him in the jaw, and her follow-up left sent him stumbling into a parked car. But Brad wasn't finished. He grabbed a handful of gravel from the ground and flung it at her eyes. Nia threw up her hands to protect her face, and Brad's tackle drove her back against Tyler's BMW. The impact knocked the breath out of her, and Brad's fist caught her in the stomach, doubling her over. Meanwhile, Jamal and Connor were locked in a desperate grapple near the maintenance shed. Both boys were bloodied and exhausted, their technique deteriorating into raw desperation. Connor managed target behind Jamal, wrapping his arm around his throat in a chokehold. Give up. Hegisp, just give up. But weeks of training had built more than just muscle. He built determination. Jamal drove his elbow back into Connor's ribs repeatedly, until Thegrip loosened, then spun around and caught Connor with a right cross that dropped into his knees. I'm done giving up, Jamal said, standing over his defeated tormentor across the lot. Nia had recovered from Brad's dirty tactics and was systematically dismantling his offense. Every punch he threw, she either blocked or countered. Every attempt to grapple, she escaped. With fluid technique, Tyler, still recovering from her knee strike, watched in growing horror as his crew, his symbols of power and dominance, were being beaten by the two students she had spent months terrorizing. This is impossible. He was struggling to his feet. We're supposed to win. We always win. Not today, Nia said, advancing on him with controlled fury. That's when the voice cut through the parking lot like a whip crack. What the hell is going on? Her very own froze coach Martinez stood at the edge of the lot, his weathered face dark with anger. Behind him, attracted by the noise, were several other adults, including a security guard. Everybody step back now, Martinez commanded, pulling out his phone. I'm calling the police. As sirens wailed in the distance, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. The fight was over, but the real battle was just beginning. The police arrived with sirens blaring and lights flashing, transforming the quiet parking lot into a crime scene. Officer Rodriguez stepped out of the first patrol car, taking in the scene. 3 white boys bloodied and beaten, 2 black students standing defiantly despite their own injuries. Everybody stay where you are, he commanded, his hand resting on his weapon. Tyler struggled to his feet, his pristine appearance destroyed. Officer, thank God you're here. These 2 attacked us. We were just walking to our cars when they jumped us. That's not what happened, Nia said, firmly wiping blood from her split lip. Are you seriously going to believe them over us? Connor added, still clutching his ribs. Look at us. We're the victims here, officer. Rodriguez's expression remained neutral, but Nia could see the familiar pattern forming. 3 white boys from prominent families against 2 black students. She'd seen this script before. Actually, Coach Martinez stepped forward, holding up his phone. I've got the whole thing recorded. The parking lot fell silent except for the crackling of police radios. I was in my office upstairs when I heard shouting, Martinez continued. Started recording when I saw them corner these 2 kids. Got everything from the threats to the first punch. Tyler's face went white. That's not possible. Modern phones have great zoom features, Martinez said with grim satisfaction. Want to see? He held up his phone, and even from a distance the audio was crystal clear. Tyler's voice saying, beneath us always has been, always will be, followed by Connor throwing the first punch. Officer Rodriguez examined the phone, his expression growing darker with each second of footage. Well, this changes things. You can't use that. Brad protested. He didn't have permission to record us. Actually, I can, Martinez said. Public space, no expectation of privacy. Basic law. Within minutes, backup units arrived, followed by paramedics and Detective Sarah Williams, a nonsense woman who'd been working hate crimes for 15 years. Let me get this straight, Detective Williams said after reviewing the footage. You 3 approached these 2 students, made racially charged statements, threatened them, and threw the first punches. We were just talking, Tyler insisted, his privileged confidence cracking. They escalated it. Son, I've got video evidence that says otherwise. Williams turned to Nia and Jamal. Yout would need medical attention. We're fine, Nia said, though her knuckles were split and bleeding. You're not fine. You defended yourselves against 3 attackers. Williams's voice carried a note of respect that takes courage.